What is up, maniacs? Welcome to WMMAnia. I am your host, Drake Riggs, here to bring you the latest and greatest in the world of mixed martial arts when it comes to women specifically. This is episode 37. Here again, another week, another great lineup, a pretty big lineup today. Apologies for the shift. We are on Wednesday once again, but at the same old time, 12 p.m. Pacific time each and every week. Getting ready for UFC 281 as well as Deep 110 Impact. Or wait, is it 111? Might be wrong right off the bat here. It is 110. Okay, got that right. Got it mixed up. But so we will be obviously previewing those two cards, the fights on those cards. We have 3 on UFC 281. Clearly, the big strawweight title fight will be the center of this weekend, followed by some pretty fun matchups. Also going down in the another one in the strawweight division, and then a flyweight bout that we will speak of, and then the deep fight will be the microweight title fight to talk about. So that'll be fun. Then we'll be recapping, of course, the action from this past week. We had 4 fights, lots of finishes from UFC Vegas 64. That was something there. Lots to talk about. RIZIN Landmark 4 also went down. Got a little tiny bit of news. So after some slower weeks, we got a lot going on for this one. And rightfully so. Going big. The Big Apple is where the fights are this week. New York City, Madison Square Garden. It's just big stuff. Always when New York is involved with the UFC. But you guys, if you are here, do not forget, visit MMAnia.com for all your MMA needs in general, and do not forget to follow us, like, share, and subscribe on all platforms if you haven't already. If you're new here, you can also hit that notification bell on YouTube specifically, so you don't miss a thing when we are live, like moments like these. Or if you're watching on replay, do it ahead of time so you can be ready to be here and join us in all the fun that we always have each and every week. So appreciate you all so much for tuning in, whether you're new or old. Appreciate you all the same. So how are we doing, you guys? As my screen has an issue right here. What's going on? I gotta stop the share, and it's busted, I guess. All right, let's see if I can close this window. Weird. The cover image just crapped out, so some early technical difficulties, but that's all right. So how is everybody doing? Rain kicking things off with his famous rhyming abilities now. The Rena Panchan of making a game plan. The Dan Hooker of using a pressure cooker. The Timirish Vidal of defeating Roma Pascal. That might another great one there, Raina. One of my favorites. I know you had some bangers last couple weeks, but that was a good one. And funny how the last one there just goes right together and they fought each other. We'll be talking about that fight here shortly. The Tapology of bad technology. The Chatri Sichitong of calling fights wrong. The Zhang Weili of speaking politely. Last one was okay, but I like the first two there. Good stuff. James is Team Magna Fight Week. Yes. Barton is here. Love the show. Had to come back. Appreciate it so much, man. And a fantastic name. Love seeing it. Barton Spackle Crisp. Just fun to say. Good times. Appreciate you, sir. Jimmy says, let's go. It's Zhang Weili Fight Week. She's focused and ready to go well as far as his underestimated Weili big time. To be determined. We'll find out. Alvin says, good day, gentlemen. Let's all wish all the best to the wonderful fighters, a good performance and health afterwards. Please remember that these fighters put everything on the line to fight. Indeed, they do, especially in times like these. Makoto says, what's up, Drake? Just get excited for Weili to get her belt back because things are better when she has the belt. By the way, do you think it's sexist to hold women to too high of a standard? Kind of depends there, but I have something about that here in a moment, Makoto. Let me get through the comments and I'll circle back to you there. Spart, good to see you. Is everyone's main event Dustin versus Michael or Carla versus Weili? I would assume most people are probably more excited for Dustin versus Michael Chandler because I think we can all agree that will be much more competitive and more exciting. Probably out of all the fights this weekend. Jin, word on the street is it's going to be an invasion of Zhang Weili fans at MSG. All right, let's all save our comments and questions about Weili at the end so we have more time to talk about it. There we go. I like the controlling and content control there, Rue. Keep it all for one subject, but we got to get out the early ones here. We are Team Magnum Boys, says Centro. Remember last year when he was vilified for his speech from China. Now she's loved by the most reasonable MMA fan. It's nice to see her get the respect as a fighter. Always nice to see people get respect. Sammy says, Drake, how come you aren't at the presser this week asking Willie questions? Didn't work out. I was, it was up in the air. We tried a little bit, but things did not work out. I will be in New York in 2 weeks for the PFL, but I will not be there, obviously, for this fight, unfortunately. Jumbo says she is at New York. I can see MSG from my room. Very cool. You got a good spot then. James, no, I am not at 281. As you can see, I'm in the regular studio here, so I did not get to go, unfortunately. Karen says I had to tune in this week to get your thoughts on Zhang Weili. All right, well, great. Thanks for joining us, Karen. Ghost says whether or not you agree or not what I'm about to say this weekend's card. Just remember what I said in the video response. All right, yes, okay. So I have been busy, Ghost. I did not get to watch that actually, so I was gonna pull it up right now because I think you said you wanted me to share it here. Let me reread. Sorry, guys, to do this. So lately, let's see. What did he say? He says he has a video response. Got to read on the show. Okay, he wants me to. All right. But I think it is just text, so I don't think there's need to show it. But I guess I still can. Let me see. Before we get cracking here with the recaps, we'll get through this real quick. As well, Makoto just asked about holding. Is it sexist to hold women to high standard? No, not at all. Too high. Well, you got to define like what is. How do you define what's too high, right? Like that's kind of where things get a little tricky there. But of course, everyone I think should be held to an equal standard because it's all MMA. There's nothing different here. The sport is all the same, whether you're a woman or a man. So the standard should be the same for everybody. That is how I have always felt. They are treated equally, which is good. That is important. I think it's not like the NBA and the WNBA separated, right? Even though their rules are the same too, as far as I know. I'm not a basketball guy, but it's all one thing, right? It's not. WMA isn't a thing. That's not a real thing. That's why I hate that term so much because it's all MMA. They're all doing the same thing, same organizations, same rules, everything. It's just they're women, right? So I think the standard should be the same for everyone, for sure. But I know this is not a fan of punch breakdown. Let me get to it here. Sorry about that. Got sidetracked with my own opinion. As Ghost wanted to address this, let me theater mode that. If it is up here, and I'm just going to read through it because I didn't get to. Let's see real quick. Yeah, he's just leaving a message. All right, so this is from our man, Ghost Phantom, the resident breakdown man. As Makoto said on a video somewhere, I haven't seen this comment from Makoto. He says, Ghost, why do you disparage women a lot? Like the other day you called Manon, Xiaonan, and Marina bad strikers when they are the best in the division. That seems very sexist. All right, so there we go. He was asking me kind of a similar thought there. So Ghost wanted to address it in a longer form. So here we go. He says, I believe one of the worst things anyone can do is lower all their standards for strategic, tactical, and technical things and attach on for a women or for a women's division. All right, so it sounds similar to kind of what I was just saying there to an extent. He says, I, as Ghost, understand that there are proportional strength, knockout, power, and explosive differences between men and women. All right, so we're going down this path here. As, however, when one starts to lower strategic, tactical, and technical standards and add for a woman at the end, that's more sexist than saying that generally women's MMA is not in a great state at the moment. I agree with that, definitely. That is pretty much what I was trying to say as well. Yeah, for a woman, that's much more offensive. When I do talk positively about things and highlight things that various women are doing in MMA, I'm talking about them doing things well, generally, I'm not saying for women. That is very true. I have never seen him say that. For example, Joanna Jacek was able to handle 3 aggressive pressure fighters in a row, Andrade, Carolina, and Claudia Gadelia. And I'm saying anyone can learn from watching Joanna diffuse pressure and circle out at tight angles. There were about 6 men at the time in the UFC that can actually diffuse pressure, and Joanna was doing it as well as they were, and maybe better. Looking at Jessica Eye or Carla Esparza's win fights by winging, stepping right hands with their chin up in the air and getting hit in the face, and that not mattering because their opponents don't hit hard enough to hurt them. That's not good. Fair. And if I went, well, they have gone on impressive winning streaks. Their striking and overall game is improving. That would be just absolute nonsense. All right. Well, in that regard specifically, I appreciate the people that say women will only get better if we talk about that side of the sport the same as men. I don't know. That seems like an interesting thought, but I disagree. They will only get better if they are given time to compete, which they have. They are all under contract with UFC, and we are watching the fights. We don't need to lie about the quality of it. Of course, we never try to do that. It's not sexist to think that one side of the sport is objectively worse, because if you know what you are watching and you're watching Jessica Eye, and so singling out these two fighters, get win streaks and title shots based on winging technically bad punches with their chins up in the air, you know that's bad. I mean, in the case of Jessica Eye, that never should have happened. That still drives me insane. It doesn't drive me insane that she kept the job for that long, but I mean, you look at kind of her run, there were just so many. She had a lot of losses at bantamweight. Shouldn't have, like, if we're going to look at who's worthy of staying in, she definitely overstayed her welcome. I will always stand by that. And yes, Carla did have some questionable victories in this current run too, but this is specifically from a striking standpoint is what you're highlighting right here, Ghost. So yeah, hold on. Let's see, it's not sexist. Yes. If you know what you're watching and you watch Alexa Grasso land beautiful counter combinations and pivot offline against Viviane Araujo, you know that's good indeed. All right, so I think that was all pretty well put there, Ghost, and I think that for the most part, that didn't need that much explaining, but it's always appreciated. So thank you for that, and Makoto, I hope that helps you better, and I hope that my thoughts also made sense. He says, hey, you left that comment on one of the fan pages. Okay, all right. So I didn't know that because I did not, I don't get notifications on that anymore since those are on the scrap. So Jimmy says that's actually a well thought out response. Alvin says, nicely said. I don't like the negativity, but fairly spoken. Yes, exactly. So, all right, there we go. Got it out of the way. Think we can all be clear on that now. And let's move on. Let's get rolling because this is a packed show, like I was saying. So we might go a little overtime. I'm going to try and keep it all under wraps as best we can. But let's start off with UFC Vegas 64 officially here now, recapping what went down. Yes. So 4 fights, 3 finishes. Some controversy. I'm very curious to hear what you guys think about the first fight we're about to talk about. The main event, as Amanda Lemos gets the job done, defeats Marina Rodriguez via 3rd round TKO with punches. Standing against the cage, landed a big right hand, kind of centered, not so close to the cage, but then backed her up, swarmed her a bit. Amanda Lemos, just a very, very, she's one of the best finishers in the division. I think she's clearly proven that now. Great killer instinct, whether on the ground or on the feet. And it was very interesting watching this fight kind of unfold because it was a similar start for her as in the Waterson fight, where she was very patient, which is a smart thing to do, especially over the 5 rounds here. I got someone like Marina. We were kind of thinking that could have been the case. And Marina was very patient too. They was very, very much feeling each other out for that whole first round. And I saw most people gave it to Marina. They had her up the first 2 rounds actually going into the third, but I gave the first round to Lemos. I thought that there weren't a lot of strikes thrown, right? Like I said, it was very feeling out, but the ones she did land, I felt like were a bit more effective. Ultimately, it doesn't matter in this case, but just interesting to watch that play out. Second round, Marina turned it up a little bit more. I think definitely won that one. Round 3, it was under a minute. It was 54 seconds in. Gets hit with a big right hand. Clearly hurt her, and then backs up. Gets swarmed, like I said. I still don't know how I feel about it. I still don't know how I feel about it. You guys know I do like Marina. Good friend and fan of hers, I would say. But and I have nothing against Lemos either, but it was very interesting because it was pretty quick. Like I said, I feel like she wasn't terribly hurt. Protested right away and obviously took to Twitter afterwards. And she was defending. She was covering up, maybe not moving out of the way as much. You want to define intelligent defense, a little bit blurry. I don't know. I think in this case, and I've seen this argument, like we could have let it be more clear, give some more time to really let it be known that she's out. Because especially you don't want to cater to fighters, certain fighters specifically, right? I don't think that's fair. Kind of again, equality, treat everyone equally, but and give them all a certain chance. But in the case of Marina specifically, like we have never seen her really hurt too badly at all. Like I'm thinking maybe that Watterson head kick she ate in the 5th round of their fight, which she seriously like ate, just took it very surprisingly well. It was a pretty good one. She's taken a lot of big shots. She's taken some big shots before. I shouldn't say a lot, and been fine with them. And of course, Lemos hits very hard. Clearly, she's a former bantamweight. I don't know. Like she was covering up. How intelligent was it? Maybe not the most intelligent, but it was very quick. It felt just very quick to me. So I'm not sure, and it doesn't take anything away from Lemos' performance in landing the initial shot that started everything right. Like I don't think there's nothing to say bad about what she did because it's not her fault that it was stopped the way it was. But I don't know, a very interesting one. It's kind of it's a little bit of a bummer for a fight of this caliber for the division and everything right now because it feels then weird to be like, all right, well, she jumps right over, gets the title shot now. And I was thinking about this initially, and I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. But then you think about, okay, well, Andrade is back at flyweight for the next one. So I guess if you eliminate her automatically by that, then that's fine. I guess that's fine because I think any combination of Rose, Xiaonan, and Lemos is the way to go. So somebody's going to get left out there. And the other two don't make sense for title shots. You could have them fight each other, Rose and Xiaonan. I think that would be great. But I would also like to see, Lemos get maybe like one more before. But then it's like, all right, then the champion's going to have to wait. I guess it's like, fuck it, just give it to her. I guess she just beat the fighter that a lot of people thought should have, that I thought, should have been fighting for the title anyway. It's very interesting. It's very interesting how this plays out. It was a trap fight. I think we kind of knew that. So, yeah. So we're seeing Jimmy and Ghost felt it was early. Sammy says, do you really think Lemos has any chance against Weili? She seems like she's tailor-made for someone as skilled as Weili. I mean, hey, again, I'll always say it. Everybody has a chance, and she has a better chance than a lot of people because, again, she can do damage, and she is a finisher. Like, we cannot deny this, whether there are still some holes with her. When she touches you, it does some damage. Karen says she also thinks it was early, but she is a fan. All right, so there you go. Yeah, like I mean, Lemos is fun to watch, especially if you're somebody who likes to see the very likely potential of a finish. And I think we knew that if anyone was probably going to get it here, it would have been her. Like, not that Marina couldn't have put her away, but yeah. So, yes, and Ghost mentioning the Ezekiel attempt there. I forgot about that, or not the very. It looked like she was going to go for it, but then, like, she had the position of it, but didn't sink it in. And I don't know. I'll ask her about that the next time I talk to her, but that looked like it was there kind of for the taking, but didn't lock it in really. This ghost says her Lemos' wrestling isn't good. Yeah, I mean that obviously hurts, and we haven't really seen her even against like a straight up pure wrestler who's gonna go for wrestling, often against her. So that could definitely be a big problem. Kind of interesting when she's had as many fights as she has had at this point, huh? So, yeah, I mean it was interesting. It was a very interesting one, and I'm very curious to see how things play out next. But especially, with where we go from here for everyone in the division. And I guess what? I mean, I guess you could Marina still be in that mix. Like I mentioned, the 3 fighters there, Zhao Nan and Rose and Lemos as well. If you want to like maximize clarity, but then again, like I said, we'll have to make the champion wait, whoever's the champion after this weekend. You could do Marina versus Rose and Zhao Nan versus Lemos. I think that could be some logic there. I don't know. It's tricky. We'll see. We will see. But again, congratulations to Amanda Lemos. Huge win for her. Biggest win of her career. I think that is fair. And Jimmy says, does this make it not clear Strava? Yes, that is what I'm saying. He says, is it good? I mean, I don't know. It kind of depends on how you look at it, because again, it can stall things for like the title specifically if the UFC isn't comfortable with like making a decision like that. Like I feel this is like my biggest fear, right? This is my biggest fear. Jimmy says he doesn't think it matters. Like about that, because things are shaking out this way, of them going back to the well and being it's like, okay, we'll just give it to Rose. Like that's the default option, which I don't want to do that. I don't want to see either rematches. I don't need to see a third Rose Whaley or Carla fight just yet. I never need to see the Carla one. We shouldn't do the Whaley one yet if we are at that point. I need freshness, and the title picture desperately needs freshness. So we need a new name in there. If you look at like all the title fights and everything, I saw, shout out to I believe Andy Hickey on Twitter. He pointed this out with how it's just like kind of been the same names ever since it started. So we really need some freshness there, but it's got to make sense at the same time, right? So I don't know. I guess because Andrade is out of the picture at the moment, going back at flyweight, and even then she's someone who's been in there, not so fresh, that Lemos is kind of in the lead now. And she jumped all the way up to number 3 in the official rankings. So I think that is kind of probably all you need to know about it. So she's probably next in line. That was a main event as well. Finished Marina, even though you could argue it was, not a great stoppage, all that. It's still officially what happened. It's a weird spot. It's a weird spot to be in, no matter how you cut it. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point, Makoto. That is very true. Yes, it is a fresh matchup, so that is fair. But in terms of names plus matchups, is kind of what I was getting at. But no, if it's just a new matchup, I'm good with that for sure. And if you look at everything we just said, there are all the options. Rose has to stay out of it, like I said. Lemos hasn't fought either of them. Zhao Nan hasn't fought either, which she has fought Carla. Obviously, Marina's not getting the title shot now. Andrade has fought Whaley only. Yeah, we'll see. We will see. We'll see. So, all right, let's move it along here as we have more to get into. My goodness, we're already at the 25 mark. We'll see how much we can contain in this show. But at flyweight, we're going to breeze through this one. Miranda Maverick defeated Shanna Young in their rematch via unanimous decision, 30-26, across the board. I put up an image for this one instead of the stats because I don't know. So we're not going to look at that really. There's not a lot to say about it because it went about as it should have. Very clear, dominant performance from Miranda Maverick. Just out-wrestled Shanna majorly. On the feet in that first round specifically, I did think that Shanna actually got us some pretty good shots. Maybe not enough to win the round, but kind of maybe surprised Maverick more than she would have expected to have been with those strikes that were landed, the punches specifically. Kind of timed her nicely, got her off balance a couple of moments there, but ultimately Miranda took her down, beat her up. Seemed like was nearly going to get close to a finish there at the end of one of those final 2 rounds, but yeah, this fight was unnecessary. Again, I didn't really like the matchup here in terms of it being making sense from where we've seen Maverick go and then Young, and we saw what happened the first time around, and Maverick's only gotten better since then. Yeah, so it is what it is. Not surprising at all. Good performance from Miranda Maverick, as expected. A good win to get her back on a winning streak officially, right? So we will see what is next for her now. So congratulations, indeed. But we move on to, my goodness, maybe the finish of the night, though. Like, there was no controversy about Polyana Viana defeating Jinyu Fry via first round knockout, punches and bunches at the 47-second mark. My goodness, what that was about a 7, 6, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20 punch combination that just sent Jin into the world of unconsciousness, if you will. My goodness. Really just kind of ran into that. Really, you want to talk about running into a buzzsaw. Polyana hits her with one, hurts her, and then follows up with as many as she possibly could afterward and lands damn near all of them. And then kisses her on the forehead as she is still very dazed and confused, which left for a very funny MMA moment type of picture in the aftermath of that. But hey, we knew, again, this is a similar case to Lemos and Rodriguez, in except a more extreme fashion. But we knew who was much more dangerous of a finisher in this matchup. Certainly Viana, and the expectation here again, where the big question mark was how comfortable she was going to be letting the fight potentially go to the ground and play off her back like she did in her past fight, which ended up costing her. And if Jin wanted to even go there, because that would have been dangerous for her. But alas, it was dangerous on the feet anyway. Just completely melted her. So a great win from Polyana in that regard. Like, that was about as perfect as you could have asked for a fight to go and as quickly. So a great easy day at the office, and you get a bonus off that. Cannot be upset there. So, but Go still criticizing, saying she had her chin up in the air and feet square when throwing combos. Not good, but still got the job done, like I said. And says it's not something to laugh at. All right. So a great finish for Polyana Viana. Nonetheless, I mean, that's some real nitpicking, though, I think, Ghost. Like, obviously, long term, sure, might not be great. But again, we're going to keep it positive here. Like, a 47-second knockout like that. That was plus the bonus. It's a good night for her. She is happy. But she got banned on Twitter for some reason. So that sucks. And yes, you don't wish that type of harm on anybody as well. Yeah, she was Jin was not in good shape afterwards. So hopefully she's okay. I haven't really seen anything since then, but yes. So good finish from Polyana Viana. We'll see what is next for her. That definitely should put her in line for not a big step up, right? She's been around for a bit here and had some step ups and hasn't been able to capitalize on them. But yeah. As James asks, banned on Twitter for what? So I know that she posted a picture of her in like some lingerie. That's the only thing that I saw. But there's like straight up porn on Twitter, so I don't know why that would be an issue. And I shouldn't say straight up. There is actual. They let that fly. Nudity is completely fine on Twitter, so I have no idea what is wrong, what happened to her account. Maybe she got hacked or something. I don't know. But yeah, if you go and look at it, all the tweets like are the same. Her profile picture is gone. It says that she like violated something. So I don't know. Very odd situation there. But yeah, so that sucks. But hey, I don't think she cares too much about it. As Barton says, do I think Pollyanna is a future contender? No, I'm not sold on that just yet. I mean, again, she's continued to show that she's dangerous in multiple areas. I think still probably better with her submission abilities, but I mean, how old is Pollyanna Viana? Here, that's the real question here. If we can decide if she's a future contender, I still, no matter how old she is, I don't think I'm gonna say I would say so yet, especially with some of the styles matchups. She's 30 now. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know about that. I mean, she could maybe break the top 15, but yeah. As Barton asks, how does a fighter sell you that they are a contender? I mean, kind of the performances that they're putting on, definitely. The types of performances, how they're winning, if they're able to show kind of versatility, or if they're just dominating in one specific way and can't really be beat there, that's something to take into factor, especially considering the opposition. So matchups that they are competing in to reach this point. So like obviously somebody I've looked at and still a very big fan of, Kanako Murata. That's somebody who I still believe will be a contender someday. But man, I've got to know what's going on with her. It's been forever since the Verna fight. I need more Kanako in my life. But somebody like that with a very strong wrestling base has put on some phenomenal performances. Been a champion outside the UFC. Like that's the best example I can give you at strawweight right now, probably. Or Yasmin Yaragwai, you look at someone who is super young and has this phenomenal, very clear talent with their abilities, maybe in one area more than the others, for striking, obviously. And considering just what they've done building up to that point. And she's undefeated as well. So like there's a lot of different factors, but those are two good examples I think you could look at where you're like, all right, it's very obvious that the way that they're winning these fights at this stage, they're going to grow off of that in theory, and then go on to be fine against a lot of the fighters who are above them. Like if you kind of, break it down and assess a little bit. So that's kind of how we look at it. But there was one more fight that opened the card, and a bummer of one for and a surprise as well. As you guys know, after talking about Tamirish Vidal last week, she gets the job done though against Ramona Pascual via first round TKO, knee and punches. I should have put flying knee there. Flying knee and punches, 306. I mean, maybe a punch or two, maybe one. Afterward, just caught her with bicycle knee to the breadbasket, as they'd call it. Shut Ramona down. She tried to get up briefly, but it was just too much damage. Could not have felt great. Just right on the spot there with her own move, right? Like Ramona has some great step knees of her own. I mean, this wasn't a step knee, obviously. It's a bicycle. She jumped into it. Brilliantly done by Vidal, but man, that's kind of like salt in the wound a little bit. So it sucks because also Ramona missed weight trying to get back down to bantamweight. Looked good though. Like clearly didn't like physically, I mean, didn't make 135. So that's a problem. 136 anyway. And then gets finished. So unfortunately, that's probably the end of Ramona in the UFC. I would have to imagine. Can still come back, but she is getting, up there a little bit, 34, maybe 35 now, run out of time. Got to the UFC a little bit later, obviously, than she would have liked, had the injuries outside of it and whatnot. But for Vidal to put her away, she's still very young. She can grow and get better, but has not been the most impressive, at least from what I have seen. Yeah, it kind of sucks in that regard, when you've been following the other person to the extent that, a lot of people have. But hey, a good first UFC win for Vidal. A new face at bantamweight. You can't really be mad at that either. That division is always needing some more life to it. So I'm not going to complain about that. And I mean, the bicycle knee, you don't see that in that fashion as well. So Jimmy says it was sad as well. And Vidal was very sloppy. Yeah, it wasn't too much to write home about there. And yeah, Jen mentioning that Ramona hit some step knees early on. It's sad to see her go. Yeah, it's like that's one of her best strikes probably. I mean, she gets them off good, and when she does land them, they do damage. But just took the one here from Vidal, shut her down. As Makoto says, phantom weight, nicely said. could be phantom punch recipient. But yeah, so that opened the show with a bang of sorts and a bummer of sorts. But congrats to Vidal. We will see what she can do in her sophomore appearance in the UFC. And how funny, you guys, after I pointed out the fight that I saw last week of hers, there was a foul in this one too. Like, she just is a foul magnet, I guess. Her fights cannot have fights without some illegalities in them, some controversial happenings, if you will. But Makoto says, as in it's a ghost town of a division, pun intended. Well done. Yeah, towards the back end for sure. That's for sure. Bantamweight, my goodness. But all right, so that wraps up UFC Vegas 64. Some crazy happenings there. There were only 2 decisions on that entire card, so delivered a bit better than I expected it to. I didn't expect much out of it. Excuse me. Oh, sorry, you guys. Jeez, I get hit with these waves sometimes. Oh, watering the eyes up. But yeah, that was UFC Vegas 64, which I kept getting confused with 65 all the way in the lead up to it. But what also happened the day after was RIZIN Landmark 4 in the cage. So I was right. They did put the Landmark event in the cage since the trigger is up in the air. I wonder if those go back and forth now for Landmark. Why not? Just have one fight night style show, and you can mix up the ring in the cage whenever you want. I think that's the way RIZIN should go. I'll try and figure out more about that for sure. But yeah, we had cage action. So, and in the cage, we saw the Shuto champ Satomi Sarami Takano at super atom weight defeat Laura Fontoura via unanimous decision in a pretty fun, and as you can see, pretty bloody RIZIN fight. We don't usually get to see too bloody of RIZIN fights because the action can get stopped usually a lot more often than not when there's a cut. And Sarami, I believe it was a knee that slipped in there. It was just funny because you can see from the picture, Fontoura going for a knee there. I believe it was a knee that slipped up and caught maybe an elbow. Obviously, one of those 2 joints would be the most likely. Oh no, it might have been a headbutt. I'm all over the place. I don't remember exactly what it was that cut Sarami. I think it might have been a headbutt actually, unintentional, and right over the eye, right there. Wasn't really going down into it, but was really leaking pretty good. So there was some moments where we were worried that it was going to be stopped. And at the very end of the fight, like the minute 30 mark, I think it was, they were checking it again, and I was like, oh man, she's like in the lead right now. It is gonna suck if they call it off and she loses. Like at this point in the fight, really seemed like that might have been the direction we were heading. But then they kept it going, and right after, Sarami hits a beautiful takedown, just wonderfully timed, gets the action to the ground at that late moment in the fight. The only time it hit the ground, which was surprising because Fontoura on the ground is shown to be pretty darn dangerous. But Sarami got her right into side control, controlled her very well, landed some good shots, closed out the fight pretty perfectly there. About as nicely as you could have asked for. Did some good damage with some knees and short punches, whatnot. and controlled Fontoura for the final 130. And then on the feet, like, there was some controversy about this. I saw at least people disagreeing and thinking that Fontoura should have won. I felt like, scoring the fight as a whole, I still felt like, even before that final end of the fight, which was pretty big for Sarami, that she still landed the better shots. It was more effective with her striking. And it was really dictating the action and the cage specifically. Like, Fontoura was back against the wall a lot. She seemed just very uncomfortable. Fontoura did, at least I thought so. In the striking department. So, and she never tried to get the fight to the ground, even, which was pretty interesting because, again, I think she's a much more dangerous jiu-jitsu practitioner. But she drops to 0-2 in RIZIN after facing two champions. First Sekizawa, the hardest debut opponent you could possibly imagine getting. And then Sarame here, Shuto champ, who got her first RIZIN win after fighting Kana Sakura in her last fight. So, good for her. Good for her indeed. The atomweight division continues to be good fun. Yeah, no doubt about it. So, Sharon is here. Says hi. What happened to the Monday show? So we left the Mondays a while ago. Sharon, just works better for my schedule to have them on Tuesdays. And yes, I know we're on Wednesday right now. It's not a new thing. Just with some other things going on, I have to shift it sometimes. But Tuesday is still the main day for now. It's the plan. Not planning on changing it. But yes. So Monday, just that's gone. Forget about that. Tuesday is still the day. I know we're here on Wednesday, but that's not the new normal. Not the normal. That's not the plan to be the new normal anyways. But anyway, that was RIZIN Landmark 4. Fun stuff there in the cage, like I said, as always. Was it Jersey is here? Hi, Drake. What's up? He says he's in New York City. Gonna root for Whaley hard at the presser, at the weigh-ins, and at the fight. Second time watching your fight live. Well, very nice, man. Have a great time. Great weekend. I'll be there in 2 weeks, like I said. So I don't know if you live there, but if any of you guys live in New York and are still going to be around, let me know in 2 weeks. But Kimball, what is up? Good to see you, says Drake, with the new haircut. Yes, I cut the hair a while ago. It's since July, so a little late there, Kimball. But yeah, and we're kind of all over the place right now with it. But excited to watch Whaley fight on Saturday. Will you be watching? Of course I'll be watching. What kind of question is that? I'll be checking it out, of course. Alvin says, please refrain from saying hateful comments on the chat. Words about race and hate is not nice and will be immediately banned. There you go. Good reminder, Alvin. If there's something going on, then I'm not seeing it. It's not showing up for me. But yes, a good reminder as always. We do not welcome any of that business here. Never, ever, or anywhere. So, all right, let's get through the news before we get to UFC 281. Hold on, I got to readjust my labels here because I mixed them up as the show started. All right, there we go. Okay, the news. Let's get through the news. Just 2 bits of news, 2 fights to talk about real quickly. As at strawweight, Loma Luke Boonmay has booked another fight. She has a new contract. She's taking on Elise Reed, UFC Seoul on February 4th. Next year, 2023 is creeping up on us. So yeah, it's man, it's just that thing with Loma. Like, love Loma. She's great. Really enjoy watching her fight. Always fun. But it's just that we know the ceiling here. And I feel like matchup like this, UFC knows that we know the ceiling. We know that she won't be top 15. We know that she's too small. But then they sign her to a new contract, multi-fight contract, all this stuff. Keep her locked down from reaching her greatest potential as a competitor, I think you could say. Like, obviously, she's in the best spot financially, I think. So that's a bummer. So it's like, well, then UFC, are you just going to fucking open the atomweight division or what? Like, I mean, this is pretty much an atomweight fight. Elise Reed's very tiny. She's fought atomweight before. Could be an atomweight too. But then you don't want the UFC to fuck up the atomweight division, which they would probably do. And especially if they don't get the best in the world, then yeah, they're going to fuck it up. I don't know. It's like good news for Loma, but in terms of her potential, maximizing her greatness as a fighter, we know that there's a cap here. There's a cap to her UFC career as a strawweight, But in this fight, yeah, this is a good match for her. Matchmaking is fine, I guess. And again, with everything all considered there and everything I said, I can't really complain about it too much because this is an atomweight fight essentially. So if you give her fights like these, atomweight fights that's strawweight, then that's all right. We'll take it. That's what she should be doing anyway, I suppose. But yeah, that one going down in Seoul, so shouldn't be a far trip for her whatsoever. But will be fun. Will be fun. So, all right, get that one out of the way, our first bit. And then we move on over to the fake atomweight division over in One Championship as Denise Mbawanga is ready to come back. And she takes on Lin Hashin at 1 on Prime 5 on December 2nd. I believe that's in Singapore. I should have put that, should have looked, but this is an interesting fight. I like this one a good bit here. Lin Hashin, arguably robbed in her last fight against Atsuki Hirata. Very arguable. Very interesting, obviously, result. Denise Mbawanga, fresh off of 2 straight losses to one of the GOATs, So Hee-ham, the Korean MMA GOAT at least, and atomweight GOAT as well. So yeah, her first fight since then. And Lynn staying busy, staying active. You like to see it, looking to rebound. I have no problems with this matchup. I'm pretty fine with it. I think it should be fun. The big factor here, I think, will be if Mbawanga looks to impose her wrestling game, which I think would probably be smart for her and probably what she will do. If Lynn can avoid that, though, keep it on the feet, we'll have a pretty fun one. So yeah, I got no issues with that one either. Should be good. Excited for it. At 115 pounds in December. So yeah, nothing wrong with our newsy matchups of the week. I'm all good with those. No problems there. So looking forward to them, indeed. As Jimmy says, that is easy work for Loma. Probably could be. We'll wait till it gets closer to really talk about it. Crumbopoulos says, is Reed any good? This feels like an easy one for Loma. Again, they're both in the same boat of being too small for strawweight to do anything impactful, right? Reed, she's got the right hand. She's got the right hand that we know about. Can be pretty quick, pretty effective, but we've seen her get beat up by bigger fighters, and same with Loma. Like they're just atomweights. They're just atomweights. It's a problem. We can't tell exactly how good they really are until they go back to their actual division. Like we know that they're good for what they can show against kind of this lower competition at the back end of strawweight. But yeah. And Grandbabo says, does she train with the best 115er in the world? Loma and Whaley are both Bang Tao. Loma has been training with her, not Reed. And Go says, Loma should have a field day with this one. All Reed does is sprinting right hands. Yeah, so there I was mentioning that. Again, definitely favor Loma in that one. And like I said, it's pretty much an atomweight fight at strawweight. But anyway, at any rate, let's continue on as it is preview time. UFC 281 is here. New York City, and we're kicking things off with not the very first fight of the night, but the first between the ladies. So we have at strawweight, Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She's back in MSG, or her second fight there. And she takes on Silvana Gomez Juarez in what should be pretty fun striker's delight here, even though we saw Karolina show off the grappling skills, just kind of dominated to an extent Felice Herrig in their rematch the last time out to snap that long losing streak she went on. And the odds here, very kind of surprising. Practically dead even, -115 to 105 for Carolina. And the only reason I'm going to assume that Carolina is the not the favorite, but the fact that it's this close is because, and they're both 37, so that's kind of funny because Silvana, she's been around less, especially in the UFC. But I'm going to assume that the fact that Carolina showed the level of grappling dominance that she did show against Felice Herrig of all people has swayed the bettors a little bit, or the odds makers, because honestly, I think that at this stage, Silvana should be favored, and on the feet, she's going to have an edge. She's going to have a speed and power advantage. I mean, we've seen that she is one of the hardest hitters in the strawweight division just across the board here. Nearly finished Vanessa Demopoulos in that fight, and then got caught charging in, looking to follow up and get the finish after dropping her. Pretty much knocked her out and then got caught. It's pretty much how that went. And then absolutely just starched poor Liang Na, which just a very, very, very bad game plan approach to all of that from Liang Na. That was a bummer. But against Carolina, who, we've seen has been touched up a whole lot in these past couple of years, and of course knocked out by Andrade. I don't think the chin's gotten any sturdier. And Silvana mixes in the leg kick well. I just think there's going to be a lot coming at Carolina very quickly that she's not going to be able to handle unless she resorts to trying to take Silvana down, which we've seen has been her weakness, especially in this UFC run here against the likes of Loopy specifically. That was the wrestling from Loopy that really stifled her there, but then she just got caught against Vanessa. I don't think we'll see any arm bars getting latched on from Carolina, but you never know. But yeah, I could see this being not so similar to the Liang Na fight because Liang was really trying to shoot just from way too far away with her takedowns and whatnot. But I will not at all be surprised if this is a, let's say, under half of the first round finish for Silvana. And I mean, their lengths are pretty similar. Same height, 5'3", reach 64 to 63. Pretty evenly matched here. But Silvana also, I think, is objectively bigger. She has fought at flyweight in the past. I just think the power is just really huge X factor here. And I don't think that the grappling ability of Carolina is going to be like Loopy's wrestling to, really go out there and just throw Silvana to the ground early, which is what she should try to do. I think, honestly, best path to victory here, if Carolina can avoid those big shots and get inside on Silvana and then clinch her up, do some work there. We know that Carolina historically has had a fantastic clinch game. I mean, that's practically specifically how she beat Rose in their fight back in the day. We haven't seen too much of that since then, which could maybe lead to the explanation for her losses here. But she can get off some great knees in the clinch, wrap it up Muay Thai style, mostly with the knees. I don't think we have ever seen too many elbows out of her, but she does a lot of good work in tight. At least she has in the past. We'll see if she can maybe do that again here, but at distance, she's playing a dangerous game. Very dangerous game. So, Rue says, is manipulative BS since Carolina is a washed fighter with no chin? Well, a bit brutal there on Carolina, I would say. It depends. Again, here, we've talked about this with Carolina many a time, Rue, especially on the losing streak. Look at who she was losing to. And this extends beyond Waterson here, but Waterson, when she was still up there 3 years ago, right? So a good while. Grasso, Jiaonan, Penne. And I mean, that one's a little bit more, they go down, obviously, the totem pole here, but on her losing streak, and this goes back to what Andrade, I think, was right before that, she was fighting a lot of still top people. If she was getting like destroyed by people who are much lower like that, I would say, yeah, maybe she's washed. And obviously she's not the same, but saying washed, I'm not sure yet, because then in that case, definitely far less washed than Herrick was, who got pretty steamrolled. And then No Chin. I mean, she's only been knocked out the one time against Andrade, but like I said, has accumulated a whole lot of damage. Got just destroyed by Zhao Nan. A brilliant performance there. Grasso just beat the brakes off her too, and just her best performance. Alexa Grasso, best she's ever looked in that fight. So yeah, No Chin. That doesn't seem fair to say, because she hasn't been getting knocked out, right? Will she in this fight? I won't be. That's what I'm. If I had to make a prediction, that's my pick. If you couldn't tell, but yeah, Spartas doesn't Juarez have a ton of power. Yes, she does. She hits very hard, very hard. So Esther, what is up? Good to see you. James says, you know who else shoots from way too far out? Carla. Just watch the second Rose fight and the Juarez fight. Yeah, haven't denied that. She definitely will sometimes. I don't know what you're referring to there, Jimmy. All right. So it looks like Alvin's doing some work here. I'm not seeing whatever's coming through, but hope it's not too bad. Apologies, guys, if there's funny business in the chat today, which I guess we shouldn't be surprised for the big fight week. You notice that the big events always attract more spam potentially, but yes, we'll take care of it. If I see it, I will take care of it. But if you're getting it, Alvin, then appreciate you. As I'm trying to run things over here, but I don't know what is going on. Anyway, let's move on to the flyweight fight. Aaron Blanchfield taking on Meatball Molly. So this is, I was about to say the big one for Meatball, but really it's big for both of them. You know, this is since Molly has become somewhat of a British star this past year. This will be her first fight without Patty, you know, and they kind of go hand in hand with each other so well. Obviously, both big personalities by themselves, but first fight, not fighting alongside Patty on this stretch. But boy, it sure is a tough one to have to do that for, because Aaron Blanchfield, rightfully a minus 390 favorite to beat the plus 310 Meatball Molly, who we know, I don't think it's any secret, no secret whatsoever, for Molly's stretch here, the Ji Yeon Kim win, a fine one to not kick things off necessarily, but a fun, solid performance by her. Just really overwhelmed Kim with her striking and whatnot to snap the losing streak. The Carolina win. That knockout, obviously absolutely sensational. As she's climbing back up, this is fine. Incredible. Knockout of the year still probably for me. I mean, my goodness, there's a lot of good options here to choose from, but that was some gnarly shit. Gnarly shit. Up there with the Ferguson and Chandler one. Like, there's some tough picks. There's some tough picks for knockout of the year this year. Carolina legitimately looked like she died from that. But so that one. And then we go backwards with the Hannah Goldie fight, which made no sense. You want to talk about your manipulative bullshit matchmaking? There you go. That's the one. Another spinning back elbow, not as clean with some punches afterward. So good deal there. Good win for Molly. But yeah, that shouldn't be anything to write home about, all things considered. Whereas Aaron Blanchfield, 9-1, should be 10-0. I mean, her Kay Hansen win back in the day. That one was actually an interesting one, but she's just rolling. You guys know I've said for a while she's been the best prospect in MMA. Now this Bo Nickel guy came along. He's looking pretty gosh darn good. But Aaron Blanchfield has always been at the very top of the prospect ladder, and she is top 15 now officially in the UFC. So I think she is. I'm pretty sure. And dominated Maverick in her fight before the last one. Dominated Sarah Alpar before that. She's just been very dominant in the UFC so far. But I mean, the last fight, not as dominant, but still ended up finishing JJ Aldrich, which is very impressive because we do not see JJ defeated like that very much. Aaron Blanchfield, a black belt at 23 years old in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Her striking continues to improve. Still working on things. but has some very big advantages here. Meatball has very tiny arms, 68 to 62 inches, as you can see there, in favor of Cold-Blooded. Same height, though, so that's very funny. That's very funny. Man, she's got to have, like, the shortest reach in the UFC. That is very, very short, 62. But yeah, the key here in this matchup, obviously, is the grappling of Erin Blanchfield. And it's funny because Meatball used to be like a pretty lean on her wrestling and grappling, at least pretty, I don't want to say heavily, but more often than not in kind of her Cage Warriors run, at least from what I remember. And then she comes to the UFC and she gets, her losses have come primarily from kind of getting beat on the ground. Well, obviously in her debut got completely spoiled by Jillian Robertson, which this is like, this is the matchup here with her and Blanchfield where you take one over the other. Blanchfield is like 100% the much better version of Jillian Robertson. So that's kind of a big matchup to look at. And then Tyler Santos dominated on the ground. Laura Procopio, formerly, beat her on the ground as well. Like Meatball Molly's weakness, her kryptonite, has been better grapplers. And Erin Blanchfield undeniably is that. Ji Yeon Kim never tries to wrestle. Didn't even. Carolina, nope. She's a Muay Thai fighter. Hannah Goldie, nope. Should have. I think she kind of tried, but still, she was smaller. It was a terrible matchup. You know the drill. Erin Blanchfield should be able to have a field day in that regard with takedowns. Molly McCann will have, she was smart, drilled takedown defense like crazy. I know that they're speaking at Media Day today, right now, probably. I know she talked before we went on air here, so I'm curious to hear kind of what she has had to say about the matchup. But on the feet, yes, she'll have an edge. I don't think it's a huge edge. Obviously, she's been a bit more flashier. She's a more aggressive striker, that's for sure. I wouldn't even say she's not a knockout artist. She just got these ridiculous spinning back elbows back to back, and the first one was off the break of a clinch exchange, which incredible. That's awesome to be able to do that and pull it off. Second one, fairly lucky, if we're going to be honest, fairly lucky about it all, but still she went for it. She got it. So I hate to say that. I shouldn't say lucky shot, but to get 3 in a row or anything like that, that would be absolutely insane. But these are not traditional kind of knockouts, is what I'm saying. She's not a one puncher. She's not a knockout puncher, I guess is the better way to say it. And not too many head kicks thrown in her arsenal or anything. Not too many kicks in general, really. We've seen more from Blanchfield as of late. And of course, who's going to forget her like pretty much a double head kick knockout against Victoria Leonardo in her last Invicta fight, or her second to last Invicta fight. So I love me some Erin Blanchfield. I'm really looking forward to that one. Can't wait to see it. Will be a big one for her, a huge win for her in terms of, boosting her notoriety if she gets the job done. And then for Molly, if she can overcome this matchup, that's huge for her to show that she has improved her wrestling and grappling defense, assuming that she will be tested there. Like if she goes out there and lands something crazy early and we don't get to see it, then that doesn't tell us a whole much. And that would be probably worst case scenario for her. Molly needs to be tested in this fight and win for us to really believe in her as an actual contender, because at the moment, it's just kind of clear what's been happening. Favorable matchups, but this one is not at all. So a good rightful betting line there. So yeah, the flyweight fight sandwiched between the strawweight action. As Go says, Molly does have decent boxing. Yeah, not great, but it's decent to get into clinch exchanges, which can be a problem for Meatball. Yeah, so like she can work her way into a bad spot here with what she's best at, which is why it's just not a good matchup for her. Sammy says, does perfect technique beat strength and power? It certainly can. Yeah, I mean, because obviously, well, we've seen that not always be the case. I'm sure a good, yeah, well, that's a good point too. Would go say no perfect technique is to make the most out of your strength, right? But a good example would be probably what Ramona versus Josiane Nunes. That was one we kind of talked about. Just that brute force overcoming the technique of the opponent. So, yeah, there's some examples out there of that. But anyway, all right, let's keep it along. We're actually making some pretty good time here, you guys. I mean, at the 105 mark, always try to keep it 130 at maximum. So we just have 2 more fights to talk about on 2 different cards, right? We're going to finish off UFC 281 right here, and then we'll jump over to Deep 110 Impact real quick to close the show. Excuse me. But, I mean, honestly, how much do we really have to talk about the co-main event? Carlos Esparza defending the strawweight title against Zhang Wei Li. Right? We've already talked about it a whole bunch. If you are a reoccurring viewer of the show, we've talked about it a whole bunch, of course. But at the same time, just really, this can't be right. This has to be backwards. What is going on here? There is no way that these are the odds. That Carla is a minus 360. This cannot be right. Hold on. I'm going to have to go to an actual odds website now. Best odds. There's one that shows all of them. It doesn't make any sense. Here, let me go to... Sorry, guys. This is throwing me for a loop. Actually, I'm going to go to FanDuel because that's where we go for the weekly previews that I do. I just got to get to the bottom of this real quick because I don't know what line they're using. All right, so here we go. Yeah, so on FanDuel, Whaley's the minus 400 favorite to the plus 285 Esparza underdog. So I don't know what exactly Tapology's looking at, but I feel like this has to be reversed. This is wrong, but either way, we're here for this fight. You look at the lengths, they have the same reach, 63 inches, height 5'1" for the short Cookie Monster to the 5'4" of Zhang Wei Li. We know the story of this matchup, right? We know Carla Esparza, what she wants to do in every single fight. She's one of those fighters who we know what they do well. They're going to do it every time, no matter what. It's just a matter of whether or not you can stop it. And her last, I want to say 5 of 6 opponents, because Rose did not even want to play around there, really. Oh, what? Rose actually did hit a good takedown on her, didn't she? From what I very briefly remember about that fight, there was a good takedown sequence. But, yeah, either way, more often than not, Carla has success with what she's best at, which is wrestling. That's practically all she's good at, right? We know that she is not a great striker. And here has been my thing, as Ghost highlighted her earlier at the beginning of the show. After the Joanna loss, before the Joanna loss, Carla was pretty serviceable. She was all right. I remember in the Jessica Penne fight, I believe, on The Ultimate Fighter, she pretty much outboxed her the whole fight, which is not crazy for that time or anything, but did happen. She looked all right there in the feet primarily. I don't remember that fight really going to the ground. It's been a long time. But after the Joanna fight, if you go and watch Carla's first fight after against Juliana Lima, she was petrified, just horrified of striking because she had no success whatsoever against Joanna, right? That was one of the most one-sided beatdowns you'll ever see, especially for a title fight. One of the best title-winning performances a challenger has ever had, if not the best. Like, she was horrified. So her striking got worse from there. But then there was one of the ones after that. She ended up kind of improving slowly and getting less afraid, I guess is the best way. I don't know if you could say she's improved or not with her striking. If you want to count it in that regard, where she was less afraid. Again, she became comfortable throwing her hands again. But either way, not something she tries to do very often, of course. But the thing that I think is most impressive to me about Carla's approach or her wrestling game and attack is she's just really relentless with getting the takedown, right? Like if she gets a hold of your foot or your ankle, she will ride it out for as long as she possibly can. Like she just goes for any part of the leg and hangs on to it for pretty much dear life. And oftentimes we'll see fighters try and run, get away, pull themselves out of that, which has worked in some cases. I remember that did work for Rose, I think, in the last fight. Again, have blocked out a lot of that one. For Weili, if she can time something there in those exchanges, or I don't know, maybe sprawl on it, just work with it in a way that isn't too much back turning, because in that case, they can lead you to being tripped, give up your back potentially. And if Carla does manage to get on top, and this fight very certainly will go to the ground at some point, unless, Weili doesn't want to play around there, because that's what it kind of comes down to, right? In theory, Weili will get taken down if she is just timed greatly by Carla. But if it's not a greatly timed shot by Carla, I don't think she'll have too much trouble there. Probably get sprawled on, like I said, or pushed away, eat a knee coming in. Who knows what she could tie him off of that. But we've also seen the submission ability of Weili, also pretty solid. The thing here also about the fight is, like, some people have highlighted, the later rounds or the ending portion of Rose versus Weili 2, which, fair and not fair. I mean, Rose timed that final takedown very well. Very good stuff from her. And I don't necessarily know if I'd say Weili tired out or anything, but obviously, longer fight goes, naturally, most 90% of fighters probably going to get more tired than not. Some people are freaks, of course, like, the Clay Guidas or the Demetrius Johnsons. But in theory, Carla's chances improve the longer the fight goes. But that will be easier said than done, avoiding getting finished in the build up to that, because Weili has many more ways to hurt her, finish her, all of these ways. Like, the only way that Carla wins the fight, obviously, is either just dominating Weili on the ground for, of course, a decision. That could be something you could say. Or if she gets into some seriously surprising, advantageous positions, like I said, with the back take, right? That's a big thing to look out for me, is if she gets a hold of one of those legs and she glues herself to it from the toe even, and Weili tries to run escape, maybe gets tripped or something, gives up her back, like, that sequence could be critical. Or if she, of course, gets into something like a crucifix that Yan Jiaonan got caught in and everything. Don't think that would happen at any point, but I believe we definitely, if Carla can manage to get a hold of a leg, like I'm saying here, that would be like one of the most fascinating moments and kind of chess match bits of this fight, because otherwise, Weili's gonna have a field day on the feet. There's really nothing to say too much about that, because we know she hits harder. She has a much more varied attack. Her arsenal of kicks, elbows, knees in the clinch, you name it, like anywhere besides Carla being on top is bad for her, right? Like, I think we know this, but that's the thing, is like, will Weili be afraid like Rose? I doubt it. She's saying this stuff about having never fought a wrestler before, I guess, of this caliber, you could say, which I don't know if there's much point in mentioning or thinking that. But I guess it's good for the mental prep of being aware and of knowing what to worry about, all that kind of thing. I don't know. But either way, we know who has many more paths to victory here. So, Jin, going back to the last fight, though, real quick, says maybe Meatball's KO was luck, but Weili spinning back fist was not a fluke, as Ghost broke it down last time. Yeah, nope, never said that. Rue says, did you know that all your boys at MA Fighting chose Joanna against Willie before 275 because they thought her confidence was shot? Now they're trying to make a case for Esparza. Pretty hypocritical. I don't know if that's hypocritical. You can make picks however you want, and they change all the time. But yeah, I don't know where we're going with that one. Because, I mean, if there was something specifically about the confidence in both matchups, Rue, then that would be more hypocritical. But if it's just based off of other things, then no, that's not. So let's please not take shots at people if we can. Citrus, I just saw an interview that Carla just said that it was easy to prepare for weights since she just muscles her way on the ground. I don't think that's what Jimmy meant about Carla. I think that's what Jimmy meant about it. Okay. Okay, yeah, fair. Very fair. GSP had no wrestling background yet. He had wrestled John Fitch, Matt Hughes, and Josh Koscheck's a way they can out wrestle Esparza. Yeah, okay, a fair comparison, I suppose. Yeah, GSP, I mean, yeah. He's like the most extreme perfect case. Most extreme perfect case, James. GSP, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time without a wrestling back. They're like the best wrestling, probably the best wrestler without a wrestling background ever, for sure. He adapted brilliantly and became an MMA wrestling, the best ever. But yeah. Rain says, is Carla handing the title over? She looks scared in the embedded. Whaley's been peeping for this fight. Prepping, I'm assuming you mean the day after she beat Joanna. So I think Carla is severely underestimating how slick on the ground Whaley is. Or maybe that's just what she's leading on. I think she'd be incredibly stupid to underestimate you guys. I mean, think about all the people she's fought. I would be surprised. This is not a striker versus grappler. This is complete MMA fight with a ton of skills versus one-dimensional fighter. Sure. Okay, I can agree with that. James says, I've been doing my research. Carla has almost non-existent takedown defense. I feel like if Carla does shoot, Whaley will destroy her. I mean, it's going to happen. She's going to shoot. Yeah. Ghost says, relentless. She backs herself up and shoots under punches. You don't think Whaley has preparing for that? Persistent, I guess I should say. Maybe not relentless, but she is one of those very persistent, one of those wrestlers who is very persistent to get the takedown. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, relentless might not be the best word, but very, very persistent on hanging on to get it if she gets a hold of you. I'm trying to think of another example here. Okay, now I think you're jumping to conclusions with that comment, Rue. I'm not going to post it, but just because, I mean, I get it. Everybody's obviously very one-sided in this matchup, and so am I. But at the same time, there is a case to be made for any fighter at any fight, more often than not, unless it's something, really stupid and, I don't know, freaking CM Punk related. Somebody with no background whatsoever, right? But like, Carla can win with her wrestling. That's the only way she can win, right? So if you make that case for that, that's totally fair and not racist. So let's not do that, okay? You guys, this is a warning here. Do not and I know who you're referring to right there has had a history of things, but you're just kind of connecting unnecessary dots, I think. As Go says, what people forget in that 5th round, Whaley had some slick half guard sweeps on Rosebud, couldn't convert, but people just overlook that. Well, of course, because they didn't work. That's why they overlook it. But we'll see. Of course, she has been learning and working on that stuff. Spart says, I heard from Dan Tom that Whaley has one of the best back takes and from bad shots, like the way she pivots. So that's kind of what I was referencing earlier too, is like, depending on how she defends these certain takedowns from Carla, how she approaches it, right? Like instead of trying to just pull away, if she can ride them out instead and get on top, counter reverse to get on top of Carla, I think. Me, Jimmy? I'm not. I don't think so at all. I've said it the whole time. I think that she can out wrestle her. I'm sorry if I was reading for Carla here. Okay. All right. There's that. Look at Dawson versus Madsen, lower class wrestler beats Olympian. Very true. Yes, Mark Madsen. an older guy though, some wear and tear. Like if you look at that, but yes, I know the credentials thing cannot be. What are we referring to here? I said that she could if she tries to do the run escape that I was talking about. All situational. And I'm getting confused now. But yes, I'm not saying that she would, but I think in that case, and of course, Whaley could always turn. Like there's a lot of different ways that what do you want to call it? That sequence could play out. But either way, I don't feel that we're going to see too many of those because honestly, I know we don't make predictions anymore, but if you guys want one, since I feel like you're coming at me a little bit here for no reason, I think that this fight will probably first or second round. I think first or second round, Whaley is going to end up stunning Carla at some point. I'm not quite sure how. I could see it similar to the Jessica Andrade finish, except obviously not as quickly. But she'll stun her and then she will submit her on the ground is kind of how I'm thinking about it. No, I've never said that, Jimmy. Of course she does. Yeah, absolutely. She needs to be very careful about taking bad shots. Like, so the way I imagine it is, we were talking about, somebody mentioned maybe Ghost about how she will shoot from very far, which yes, she will do that. Terrible idea to do in this case. And she might not even get the space to do that. She might not be allowed to breathe with Whaley coming at her, but then that presents openings for her to get, countered off the pressure for the takedown, which is probably a better case for Carla. So, yeah, in terms of getting the takedown, but she's got to be careful no matter what, because of course there's the knee, but then Whaley potentially giving it up, but then she could sweep. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it for sure. Ghost saying that, in all of her fights, she closed her eyes when throwing her right hand. All right. I'm expecting more to come out of that or out of that comment. But yeah. Either way, I just gave my prediction right. I think she'll submit her. As I know a lot of people are saying knockout. Either way, a finish. But what are we? Makoto says, should Whaley attack the body? Yeah, why not, right? That'd be a great approach to take, especially if she wants to be a little bit more patient and with not worry of the takedown necessarily, but in case the fight goes longer and then, slow Carla down as it does go long as well. And Ghost says, don't think it's bad that closing your eyes is a really bad habit. I don't think it's a great habit, no, but there are a lot of fighters who do close their eyes on strikes sometimes, right? So, like, I don't know. I don't think it's not good, but I don't know how bad it is either. Like, if you're gonna get hit, you're gonna get hit in that case, So I think it is what it is. But I've seen, yeah, there've been several people I've seen do that. So, and yeah, again, I don't think it matters open eyes or closed eyes, Ghost. Yeah, she's gonna get hit with some big shots, but yeah, preferably probably want to keep your eyes open, but that's also, yeah, natural instinct habit. You don't want your eyes to get hit by anything. But anyway, you guys, all right, we're down to the 124 point here. That is UFC 281. If you still want to get in some quick comments about that fight, of course, go ahead. But got to get to the last one here really quickly. And honestly, not too much to say about it either, but we got to mention it here because on this show, we like to address as many talking points as we possibly can, and we did a good job. I'm very proud of us here to stick to the 130-ish mark that we are coming up on. So UFC 281 is not the only bit of action going on this weekend, as Deep 110 Impact is also going down. As Sari Oshima, another past recipient of a Fan of Punch Breakdown, she is back defending her microweight title on the Big Deep. against Mizuki Furuse in a fight that is what it is. I don't think Furuse is really deserving of a title shot. Yeah, she's managed to finally get back on a winning streak here and get her record back to 500. That's good with wins over Kobayashi and Momoko Yamazaki, her last time out just a month ago. And then, of course, so is Oshima after the Hime defeated Morisuda, and then the Miyu win in RIZIN. So what I'm hoping for is Saori can get this out of the way, and then we get her fighting, some of the somebody else atop of the atomweight division, because the microweight, it's fun to have the experiment, have the double champ status and all that, but the atomweight division is too good to not have her consistently competing there. Saori Oshima will be outlengthed in this one, 4'11" to 5'2". 63-inch 0.8 reach for Mizuki to, we don't know what Saori's is, but how funny is that Mizuki Furuse has a longer reach at microweight than Molly McCann. So yeah, she has like the shortest arms of all time, does Meatball. But in this fight for Saori Oshima, she's just simply better. You want to talk about these matchups here? These last two matchups we're going to talk about: Carla Esparza versus Zhang Weili, and then Saori Oshima and Mizuki Furuse. Weili and Saori are simply better fighters in all aspects, really. Of course, you can argue the wrestling. People will in that one, but overall, MMA completeness. And I mean, Saori Oshima still has a lot to work on with her striking. Ran into shots just miserably, punches and strikes against Hime, which is pretty much why she lost that fight then. Couldn't quite take her down as easily as she wanted to, and she's comfortable with giving up her back. And against Mizuki in this one, despite being, smaller in stature generally, she's pretty strong. She's pretty strong and just attacks from every position so effectively. Whether it's with those up kicks from the bottom, utilizes them brilliantly. Seeking her arm bars, some of the sweeps and transitions she hits. Like, Saori Oshima is so fun to watch all the time. Mizuki Furuse, though, I don't think she's an all right grappler, but she's been beaten by all the people she's kind of supposed to lose to, right? Kana bullied her, destroyed her. Even Nisei was able to beat her. Aya Murakami got the submission. Like, I don't think Furuse has really any chance in this one unless she fights from a distance, uses her strikes uses her length and all that to keep Oshima away from her, as we've seen has been an issue for her. You go back to the last loss, as well as the Siwoo Park series rivalry that they've had. And I mean, Maya and I'd love to see a third one there too, but Oshima just simply going to be too strong here. Is capable of taking, just better technically on the ground. The hope for Mizuki is to avoid that. But this fight, 1,000,000% is going to go to the ground. Like, if you wanted to make a promise bet, that would be the one to make. So, Saori Oshima going to retain. I will be very surprised if she does not. As Ghost says, what do I think of Carla's habit of circling with her hands down? Not a good one. Not a good one at all. That is, yeah, that's you never want the hands down. It always kind of frustrates me when fighters have their hands down at any point, Ghost. But yeah, or shooting with her head inside single on all punches. That's her only entry. Don't you think that's predictable and something that Weili is preparing for? I would assume so. I would hope so, for sure. Spart says it seems that Carla would get her back taken at a higher rate, is what I'm. Oh, get her back taken. Yeah, well, that's what I'm. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Weili should do this whole time. Thank you for the clarity there. I said that Carla would be taking Weili's back, but to me, it seems that Weili will take her back like against Rose. Yes, that's what I was. I'm glad that you clarified that, because what I was saying is, if she tries to not go along with that position, right? And I think it comes down to confidence in your own abilities, really, because you've seen it many times where people will try to escape from the ankle biter, right? Carla, the ankle biter, who's down on their foot only, or like the shin area, just gripping it, hugging it. and they'll try to get out. We've seen it, of course, with some men wrestlers too. I'm trying to think of some good examples there. But she has done that many times, and then people try to escape. But if you kind of go on top of her instead, counter it that way, that's what I'm saying she should do. And I would think she probably will do. She's more likely to do that than the other way. But that's what I'm saying is if she tries to get out in that regard, then you can get tripped if they end up grab your other leg. I can't get that right there, right from the back, and then trip you out, then crawl up to get the other person's back. So that's what I mean with that sequence, that single leg kind of glue ankle biter type of sequence that we've seen many a time from Carla. As Jimmy says, Whaley has been talking about strategy and tactics. Carla's been talking about never faces someone like her. Your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I think she's definitely keeping things closer to her chest, maybe than Whaley, like not talking about it as much, whether that's because she has something to talk about or because she doesn't want to reveal secrets and strategy, But, well, I mean, they've both said that, Jimmy. Whaley literally said in that interview from a week or two ago, she said that she's never fought a wrestler, which I feel like that's definitely not true, but I guess not a wrestler of, obviously like Carla's specifically. But yeah, they both said that. So don't just highlight, one direction. I don't think it is what it is. And I mean, man, this matchup though really makes you wish we saw Whaley versus Kanako and RIZIN. How crazy is it that we missed that fight? And Makoto's highlighting the interview that I was just talking about. What did I think of Whaley's interview on the Fruiting Body podcast? Different, right? It was interesting. I don't know if I liked the guy very much. I don't know about him or who he is. No offense to him whatsoever, but I don't know. I felt like, I mean, I liked the idea of what they were doing, with kind of the translator. And again, whole lot of work. Fucking props to them for putting that video together the way they did, because Jesus, probably took forever. I can only imagine. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like he there were a lot of things he didn't follow up on that I wish he would have followed up on. Kind of expanded more as an interviewer. But that's just me nitpicking. As Ghost says, how about Carla's gameplay to emulate Frank Edgar? Thoughts on that? I have not heard this. Or she wants to exchange with Whaley, then shoot. That's her secret. Could be bluffing. Could be definitely bluffing. I would not be surprised. I don't know about that. Wasn't Jessica Edgar a wrestler? See what happened to her. Yeah. So Jessica, boxer, wrestler, boxer. More of a diverse fighter than Carla as well. But yeah, that's a good person to highlight. So yeah, for sure. But anyway, that was Deep 110 Impact as well. So here we are, right around that mark. We did a pretty good job. A lot to talk about. There's going to be even more to talk about next week as well. My goodness, you guys, what a time it has been. Oh, okay. So Ghost is talking about his secrets, I think. That's what it sounds like. But anyway, we have reached that point, you guys. I got to get on with the day this Wednesday here. Media Day over in New York City. For those of you who tuned in from New York, appreciate you so much. Hope you have a great old time with all the Fight Week festivities. What press conference tomorrow, weigh-ins on Friday, fights on Saturday. I'm yawning right now here from home. My goodness. So, all right, you guys. We will leave it off there. Appreciate you so much. Do not forget to visit WMMAnia.com for all your MMA needs. Like, share, subscribe, please. At least the like button helps us out a whole bunch. Really appreciate it. You can even hit the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. You can follow me at DrakeRiggs_ on Twitter and Instagram. Primarily a Twitter guy, but I also do some little clips on Instagram of my interviews and whatnot. And speaking of those, I spoke to the One Championship lightweight champion, Christian Lee, last week? Yes, I'm all over the place with my timing here. But I spoke to him recently. The interview is out now. It dropped on Monday, I think it was. He is fighting on the next One Championship event next week, looking to become a 2-weight champion with a welterweight title, if he possibly can. Good stuff from him, of course. Broad Horizon episode 21 production is underway, so that should be coming to you as soon as humanly possible, sometime this month, this November, ahead of the big RIZIN 40 extravaganza on New Year's Eve. That will be some good fun. And then, yeah, I think that is about it, you guys. I'll have a preview over on the old, I don't know if I should, I feel weird plugging the other website stuff, but I will preview this event here this week, tonight actually. It'll be out tomorrow or Friday, whenever. And then, yeah, I will also be at Bellator next week in Chicago. So that's what's going on. So traveling a little bit here at the end of the year. As Rain says, Christian Lee of Screaming Robbery. There you go. Nicely done. So, all right, you guys, we will leave it off there. Appreciate you so much. Enjoy the weekend. I will see you next week, Tuesday, 12 p.m. Pacific time. Stay safe and stay sane, everybody. Thanks so much.